नित्यानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्याधिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि. Nithyanandam, everyone. We welcome each and every single one of you who have joined us in here. It's so wonderful to connect with all of you. I know today we have actually, as Kailasa, the last few days, more than I think about 2 weeks now, especially where we are facing a lot of attack, where these Hindu mystic elements are attacking us. And we have been facing these attacks, facing this persecution a lot. So now, to all those who are here, joining us for this live stream, we are now going to be delving deep into understanding about this attack more and also exposing some of the hate speech and the genocide that these outlets, the so-called media, are perpetrating. I have a question. Since when did Hinduism become media sponge bag? That to a favorite one. Let's cut through the noise and call it what it is. Racism, plain and ugly. The media does not just report on Hindus. It targets, ridicules, mocks, deliberately spreads hate speech on Hindus, especially some of the minority communities within Hinduism. This is not just about being biased, but it is deliberate Hindu mystic attack targeted to tear down Sanatana Hindu Dharma and to silence those who are voicing out for Hinduism. You know, Ma Dvaitavarjita, you have been also researching to see what way these so-called media outlets, which are nothing but an instrument at the hands of the anti-Hindu deep state elements. I know when we were seeing, it was not surprising, but it's so obvious and it's very clearly seen and statistically proven where the media channels, just Times Now, the Indian media channels, have a crown being the second most corrupt entity in the entire world. So it's no surprise that these media channels are deliberately spreading false news. But what's shocking is it's not just false news, it's now perpetrating a genocide targeting the minority Hindus. So today's subject is going to be delving deeper into this. So Dvaitavajita, do you want to share something about this?
Yes, Priya. Actually, to all the viewers that are seeing here, today we're going to really go and expose how the anti-Hindu deep state elements is using genocide tactics under the guise of news, which is exactly what Priya is saying. They are disguising it as news, but actually it's a genocide tactics. See, especially this anti-Hindu deep state elements media, and also especially Times Now in media over the last 2 years. If you look at the track record, actually not even 2 years, the last 10 years, they are actually one of the most misinformed media outlet, where they only spread information and issues and Hindu related issues in a sensationalized way. They don't actually care about fact checking anything. And basically, if you look at the corruption perception index, you can all research that to show the corruption level. this anti-Hindu deep state media elements, they actually literally almost rank not only just two, but in the corruption perception in the whole world, they rank almost in the top 30, which is really bad because that's how much misinformation they're continuously targeting on this marginalized indigenous community. They always seem to target minority communities. At first, I thought, okay, maybe it's just one. No, it's actually a pattern. So, according to analysis, over 60% of their coverage on Hindu topics was found to be misleading or factually incorrect. And if you look over here right now, false information is number one when it comes to the deep state anti Hindu elements, especially in India. They have covered a lot of Hindu topics which was misleading and factually incorrect. They basically gossip, fake news, false news, where people get over it. They instigate mob attacks. There were many victims that was actually part of mob attacks just because of misinformation spread by this Times Now or any type of anti-Hindu deep state elements media channel. Almost 30% of their coverage related to Hindu leaders or any type of Hindu spiritual figures involve out of context quotes, which creates lots of controversy. So they only cover controversial related information. And this is the one.
And
Yes.
one important thing I would like to mention here is it's affecting our lives. The hate speech that the media channels are propagating, it's really affecting our lives. The way it's causing a genocide, the way it is affecting all of our lives is something that we can't justify it with anything. It puts all of our lives in danger, in grave danger. And that is something that the whole world, as especially Hindus, we need to wake up to. The kind of hate speech, like I remember Ma, when in 2019, when this false fabricated news was just being propagated everywhere falsely, where they claim and allege as if that I'm kidnapped and me and my sister are kidnapped, and then falsely accusing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism of it. And even though we kept voicing out, we kept trying to tell what was actual reality. We were not just not kidnapped, we were living out of our free will. But the media channels, especially the anti-Hindu media channels such as Times Now, would have hours together shows propagating so much of hatred and violence, demonizing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and slut shaming the two of us. And this was so horrifying because that's exactly what they're doing right now. If you just see, because of this, right now, our situation has just gone to an extent where our lives are in danger. And this is the same thing that is happening to every single Hindu who is voicing out for Hinduism. This has become the situation because this is what the media wants. The anti-Hindu media wants us as Hindus to get brainwashed, us to become victims of this kind of a situation. It is propagating violence, it is propagating hate speech and genocide. We are trying to say the mafia media, just Times Now, are you trying to say that we as Hindus have no right to life? Are you trying to say anybody who's a Kailasa Rasi, anyone who is being part of the first nation for Hindus, right to life? Because this is not just what it seems like, but that is what the reality turns out to be. Because every single statement, hate speech that you are trying to spread is directly affecting all of our lives. I know, Ma Dvaitavajita, you were mentioning about how the deep state elements control this media mafia. Do you want to share a little more? When you say anti Hindu attacks are happening and Hinduism is being misrepresented, what do you exactly mean?
Yes. Actually, one of the most demonizing terminology that the anti-Hindu deep state elements uses, especially when it comes to manipulating the innocence, ignorance of the masses, they will use things and call names like Hindu Taliban, Hindu fascism, saffron terror, Hindu extremists, Hindu Mediterranean. They always try to make a Hindu look evil, which is the same thing they actually do in movies. They make fun of our deities, calling it mythology. They somehow always target the Hindu sentiment. For instance, like how you were just sharing over here, you can see what does the corrupted media journalism do? They spread anti religious propaganda and they fail fact checks repeatedly. And you'll see a pattern of them getting fined heavily just because they're spreading fake news. You need to understand fake news is such a trend right now, especially in Indian media channels. And hate speech itself has risen till 200%. And the other thing is that these channels, like I said, one of the fundamental things when they are continuously spreading hate speech, you will see that there will be a trend of them getting fined. This very anti-Hindu deep state media channel was actually fined over 15 million USD in lawsuit, a defamation case. They actually got into a defamation case just because of spreading misinformation. So when you actually look at the track record of these media channels, you can clearly see that is an orchestrated attack. And over here, you can see again, it's an orchestrated attack because they want to control the narrative. There's actually no factual basis. It's just filled with fake stories just so that they can use all these narratives, saffron terror, vigilante, all of these. What will people think about Hindus? They're they're
Oh my
portraying
God,
it
this is
like
just so shocking. Like,
exactly.
if you just, when you actually put together these words, I want the viewers to take a moment and actually see it. The kind of demonizing terminologies that these anti-Hindu media mafia use against the Hindus, it's really terrorizing us as Hindus. So what happens, Noma, when they use words like saffron terror? Oh my God, this is not misrepresentation or just defaming us. It's not just a defamation case here. It is a direct Hindu music attack. What do you mean by calling us Hindu Taliban? So when you spread, times now, when you spread words like saffron terror, you are instigating violence directly on the Hindu sannyasis who are proudly wearing saffron. When
All
you
these
say Hindu Taliban, what do you mean by using such a racist, violent terminology? It's directly spreading hate speech. Oh,
exactly.
like it's harmful.
Actually, this is exactly the
It's
narrative
spreading. Mhm.
they want to give to the people. Like for instance, we went whenever anybody wants to talk about Hinduism or talk about Hindus, all these sensational words that they use. That is what gets imprinted in people's mind. The first thing they think like, oh, there's a Hindu Taliban. Oh, there's a saffron terror. So now, as sannyasis, especially Kailasa is a place where one of the most largest revival of sannyas sampradaya is happening. And if people go around seeing this terminology, they're going to start, telling, oh, there's a saffron terror happening. They will all of a sudden attack, just like what they did in Bolivia. Can you see the pattern? The attack that happened to us, what the media is trying to sensationalize. We are all the way in indigenous community. We are actually an organization, a US organization, which went and gotten a what do you call it diplomatic relations with the indigenous nation to help and protect their whole ecosystem working together. But the way media portrayed us, it made it look like as if we are not someone to go into any type of relationship with. We will only bring the way they manipulate. Are you able to see that, Matatwa Priya? If you can see the whole pattern.
Absolutely. This is
Yes,
like so clear because this is exactly the playbook of these fascist terrorists. They are not normal. They are not normal people. They are not misinformed. No, this is deliberate. You see the terminologies they use. This is deliberate attack. The Hindu misia is real. The way how these anti-Hindu elements actually, this is so similar to what had happened, what our ancestors had faced. There are so many evidences. If you just see our deities and the way how the deities are right now, how many temples we have lost, and how our ancestors were literally gone through the worst ever Holocaust for what they have all given up their life for to protect this Sanatana Dharma. Now, we all are being lied to, denied that such a Holocaust even happened, and we are ashamed of the very identity of Hinduism. And we are all the time being bombarded with this kind of mass atrocity material that is generated by this deep state elements. This is so hurtful, actually, especially when you know that these kind of media houses with their TRP, they are ready to just sacrifice anyone else's life. And here it's not just one person, it's an entire race, entire community. Then they just want to wipe out Kailasa because we as Kailasa are standing up strongly for Hinduism because the supreme pontiff of Hinduism has dedicated his entire life just for the revival of Sanatana Hindu Dharma.
yes. And not only that, one of the other factor, this deep state, anti-Hindu deep state media, what they do is that continuously not fact checking. I don't think they understand that there's something called indigenous, right? I think they need to go back to school, or maybe they need to literally look into their what do you call it, staff, whoever that is the director of doing. If you can see here, these is one of the lawsuits in which they received about 10 years ago for literally a defamation case, spreading hate speech, misinformation. And who will want to believe anything that comes out of your channel, especially when it's targeted towards Hindus? So this is
You can see the track record here clearly. Having a 15 million US dollar lawsuit on you for defamation, and you still continue not just defamation, but you're propagating hate speech and genocide. So, what does Times Now have to answer for this? For you is that the credibility of yours, which was already at the tip, is also now being lost. This is the kind of credibility that you have, a $15 million lawsuit. And the pattern of your deep state influence, where the deep state anti-Hindu mafia gang controls your narrative, and selective amplification, these fake stories against Hindus go viral. The corrections get buried. Like a stark example of this would be how what happened recently in Bolivia, like how when the monks were kidnapped, and we have, like, I was so shocked, we have an entire live stream that shows that they were kidnapped. We have clear evidences. Yet these media mafia gangs tends to just become blind to it.
Yes, and on top of that, and if you look at it, they have Intel leaks as news. Unverified sources used to push anti-Hindu narrative. First off, they did not even reach out to us to ask us our facts. We are ready to actually share our side of the story, but they did not do that. They did not do that because why? They want to publish something and just go on because it's an anti-Hindu narrative. Anything in which attacks and fits their whole narrative control by the anti-Hindu element, they will do that first. And the next thing, actually, if you look at the second part, there's selective outrage. They take things from new. They make new sensation out of selective outrage. For example, silence on attack against Hindu, hyper focusing on minority issues. Then they have fake victimization, false claims of genocide or oppression without any type of evidence, and historical distortion, rewriting history to paint Hinduism negatively. Just like how they were pinpointing on Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, just dragging and trying to recreate their own something that is not even interconnected, trying to connect things to the dot just because everything is Hindu, so they can portray, yes, this is how Hinduism is. So this is the way the media channels, especially all these corrupted media channels run by the anti-Hindu deep state elements in the guise of news. This is the way they brainwash each and every single one of you. And this is the way they are attacking and instigating modern day genocide to happen again. So today's Hindus will get erased. They are not able to keep themselves intact because they are not able to handle the millions of Hindus getting awakened by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. All of us understanding our rights to sovereign, our rights to revival. This is continuously what they are actually trying to attack. So, Tattapriya, actually, one of the things that they are doing is that they are not understanding the indigenous right. One of the things that even basically that there in the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, any individual belonging to minorities have the right to practice and enjoy their culture. But what Times Now is doing is that they are persistently misrepresenting the Hindu communities, both locally and internationally, where they literally go against and ignore the universal human rights standard. So they don't even respect the human rights standards that is given by the ICCPR, anything. They're completely against human rights because anything in which we are stating, like Article number 27, or even Article number 18, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 18 says protects freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And
absolutely,
you can clearly see, yes.
And actually, just to add to what you were sharing, because see, first thing, as you were mentioning, right, this is an agreement that a US organization had signed with an indigenous group in Bolivia. This is, first of all, maximum it could have been a local news. But somehow these Indian media channels, the anti-Hindu media channels, which are controlled by the deep state of India, they somehow feel that it's their jurisdiction too. But they don't seem to see some of the things that are happening within their own jurisdiction, within their own borders. Some of that feels like an international news. And ironically, they feel an international news. Actually, different countries' local news suddenly becomes its international news. So the first fake news that they are spreading was about how there was no legal document that was created, something that I don't even remember it because it doesn't even make sense to me. Because first of all, any document that this organization has had with the Bolivian indigenous community is very clear. Every single thing is apostilled as per the Bolivian constitution. And not just that, our monks who were there were actually serving the indigenous people, continuously giving free food. You can just see the joy that the indigenous people had. Whether it is teaching yoga for free, giving them the nutritious meals, and transforming their lives, you'll see how happy the kids are actually every day when our monks are going and doing the yoga. These kids also come and wanted to join. They wanted to come, join, be part of the yoga, and they wanted to learn. And that's why actually so many of them started joining. So this is how we started having so many of the indigenous groups coming. And not just that, anything that we did was absolutely as per the constitution of Bolivia. You see, in the Bolivian constitution, first of all, the indigenous people are given the right to self-determination and are given the right to territoriality. I understand that Times Now is too busy trying to perpetrate genocide, trying to spread so much hatred and violence so that the lives of the Hindu sannyasis can be in grave danger. While you're propelling that, you're big time missing out on fundamental fact checkings. Though your mindset is completely colonial, there are the other governments where the indigenous people are offered rights, such as the Bolivian constitution, which clearly says in Articles 30.2 the right to self-determination, territoriality. So as an indigenous community, they have all their rights, autonomy, to be able to have such relations with other organizations. Similarly, the rural native indigenous autonomy is granted in Article 289, which clearly states how the rural native indigenous autonomy consists in self-government as an exercise of free determination of nations and rural native indigenous peoples, the population of which shares territory, culture, history, languages, and their own juridical, political, social, and economic organizations or institutions. The UNDRIP clearly outlines the rights of the indigenous people, the UNDRIP being the UN's Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. It clearly states the right to self-determination means that the indigenous people have the right to freely determine their political status, freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So what right now these anti-Hindu, anti-indigenous media channels such as Times Now is doing is what it has been, the colonialism and the barbaric invasions that we as indigenous nations have faced for centuries. This is what we have been faced with. This entire attack has been targeted on us only because we are empowering these indigenous nations.
To add on also, the Bolivia's constitution guarantees indigenous rights. I don't know if all of you know this, and definitely we know Times Now does not know this, but yet it is undermined by the media and deep state actors, fabricating narrative, inciting anti-Hindu hatred. This isn't just illegal. It is a crime against humanity under the Rome Statute, Article 7. Because Kailasa, as what Matatapriya was sharing, because Kailasa represents what colonizer fear, indigenous self-determination. Colonizer fears this when the indigenous gets self-determined. Our history, 500 over million Hindus massacred, 4+ million enslaved, temples destroyed. Now, as we reclaim our legacy, they're trying to silence us again. So the world must see this assault on human rights. How many of you
I see a comment.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. I see a comment from someone named Wolf. Our concern should be eradication of casteism as it has dwindled Hinduism, and this term Sanatan has arisen recently, and if I have no knowledge of religion, it is fine, for it is not making me special. Wolf, are you here right now? You live watching us. If you're here, please can you let me know, because I would love to answer your question. See, first thing, casteism is not part of Hinduism. I know it sounds very paradoxical, because always in schools you would have learned as if Hinduism has casteism within it. And unfortunately, that's how the Marxist secularists want to force feed this kind of anti Hindu, completely misinformation inside us and try to make us also start hating Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Sanatana Hindu Dharma is not a new terminology. Sanatana, you will find this word in so many of our scriptures. You take, for example, take Bhagavad Gita. So many verses Bhagavan declares Sanatana means being eternal. And you're also stating as if this is a new terminology. And actually, the term Hinduism itself is there in our Hindu scriptures. Our Hindu scriptures clearly detail out all these things. If you open, we have the Kailasa booklet, and I highly recommend that you, if you have some time, to also just study it. Because in Brihaspati Agama, Bhagavan Parameshwara reveals, Himalayan samarabhya yavat indu sarovaram tam deva nirmitam desham hindusthanam prachakshate. This means the word Hindu itself is there in our scriptures as old as time itself. The place where Hindus live was called as Hindusthana. And this is detailed in Brihaspati Agama. And this terminology, casteism, do you know casteism never existed? Varnashrama dharma is not the same as casteism. Understand, we have two things, jati and varna. Jati system is where you are born into a certain community, and because you're born into that community, you inherit certain rights that belongs to that community. Varna, on the other hand, determines the positioning in the society based on your conscious evolvement. Where is your consciousness? What is your consciousness going towards? Based on that, the Guru initiates you. There was never this discrimination-based system in Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Be very clear, the discrimination-based system only started after the British invasion. It was not there pre-colonial era. Post-colonialism, the invasion of British got in the caste system, which is not part of Hinduism. Show me one text that has a reference to casteism. Varnashrama dharma is not the same as casteism. We Hindus need to unite. We Hindus need to wake up. So your concern about casteism, it is not true, because Hinduism is not having casteism. And you are saying, if I have no knowledge of religion, it is fine, for it is not making me special. Well, it is like this. It's like you own a huge mansion. You own, let's say, a 5-story mansion or even a skyscraper. And you lock yourself in the bathroom and somehow start deluding yourself, thinking just bathroom alone is where you exist. You forget the possibility to actually open the door and see out. So you start living, you start cursing God, saying, look, only this much you're given me. And you start thinking, this is all of the possibilities I have. I have to live in the same dirty place, and this is all I'm destined for. When someone comes and tells you, hey, just open this door. When Guru comes, he just opens the door for you. And that's when you start experiencing what is actually yours. Learning, having the right introduction about you to you matters. Because that's what gives you access to that 99.99% of you which you have not accessed in the last so many years. So that is why knowing about your true Hindu identity matters.
honestly, that's very true. Whatever Masata Priya is sharing. See, when we look at the values of what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the teachings, the revival that he's doing directly from the Vedas and Agamas, is to make you understand the divinity inside of you. And when you live in a world, what are we? We are only an enlightened civilization. Kailasa and Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is reviving the enlightened civilizational nation. Means what? It means majority of the people are only centered on the enlightenment science, wanting to live as per the enlightenment science, which is the moksha-centric lifestyle, moksha-centric people. See, why is that such a need of the hour right now for humanity? Is because when you're enlightened, you no longer get fooled by fear and greed, which is basically what is shown, what is happening in today's world. You get fooled by fear and greed, and you think, like for example, what Wu commented on casteism. The reason why that even triggers so many people is because they think it's all about dividing and making people feel low. But Hinduism is not about making you feel low. It's about introducing you to the real you. So when Hinduism is distorted to this level, it just shows again and again this anti-Hindu element is continuously making Hindus slaves to the colonialism mindset. They don't want us to break free from the shackle of the colonialism mindset. They want to control us with that narrative. So that's what I've also wanted to add on to what Tattvapriya is sharing. They're just wanting to continue the genocide. That is why we keep saying it is a continuation of genocide, because they have not let go. This anti-Hindu deep state elements are really targeting the Hindu minority community because they don't want us. They want to enslave us. And if you look at it, these communities who are standing by us, these indigenous communities in Bolivia, they are so happy to be part of another nation who shares the same values. We share the same suffering. So why will we even do anything against them? Because we know how they felt. That is why they even went into the agreement with us. They understand what we're trying to protect. We stand for the ancient indigenous sciences. And over here you can see the Hindu genocide. The Hindu genocide is one of the most painful, the most largest, most undocumented, ongoing genocide in the history of mankind. And if you look at the statistics,
Actually, because that's just a thing over here. I think just saying it as undocumented may not be entirely true, maybe silenced, because we do have a lot of evidence, so much of evidence. Even now, what is happening, the genocide that's happening, we have too much evidence. But the evidence is getting silenced. The people who speak this out, who bring this out, our lives are put in danger. All of our lives are put in danger. I request all the viewers that are here, you can post any question you have, because we need to understand what is really happening, why Hinduism is under attack, our lives being put in danger just because we voice up for Hinduism. And that actually clearly exposes why the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is being targeted. So if any of you here, the viewers, the youth viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to post it here. And even the other platforms, watching us or on Facebook, any of the social media platforms, feel free to post any questions that you have, and we will be able to answer you. You can put any question you want, because this subject is a very important subject that we need to understand.
So when I mean by undocumented, you don't see this in the history textbook. Of course, now it's highly documented, because the one who is documenting all of this actually is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. So all the Hindus can wake up to what is actually the reality. Actually, if you can look at the statistics, if people would like to look into the genocide, the historical pattern of genocide, whether it's the Armenian genocide, Greek genocide, Jewish genocide, the Jewish Holocaust, Hindu Holocaust brought in a staggering 400 to 500 million people that has been affected by the Hindu Holocaust. And the Hindu Holocaust is actually an untold Hindu genocide. See, the ancient peaceful, enlightened Sanatana Hindu civilization is facing extinction. We're in the brinks of extinction because due to the persecution that has been happening for over a millennium. Over a millennium is not something small. Over a millennium, it has been happening. So if you can actually look at the screen, you'll be able to see the statistics. It's 412 million Hindu massacred, over 3.7 billion forced, blackmailed, or converted, 95 million Hindu tortured under political crimes, and 9 million books burned in Nalanda University. You need to understand there were targeted, systematic attacks, over 108 and more different attacks, like, for example, man-made famine. All of this was just so people will be affected, a huge number of it. Yes, as you can see the statistics over here. For the Hindu Holocaust, over 400, 500 million has been affected. Yes, and over here you can see in the next slide the statistics. Over 412 million Hindus massacred.
And you can see very clearly the comparison between what the Armenian genocide that happened versus the Jewish Holocaust versus the Hindu Holocaust. But as the word Holocaust, we all know the Jewish Holocaust. That's because the Jews stood up for their rights. They stood up for the sacrifice that their ancestors made. But what about the Hindu Holocaust? Which is 100 times more. Each of our ancestors, your great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, they gave up their life for you. You're alive today is because they sacrificed. So what are we going to do about it? Are we just going to stay silent as the Hindu attacks, the Holocaust, the persecution, the genocide continues?
Yes, and I would like to also keep on sharing the statistics. If you can see the attack, the first ever attack, over here you have another statistics on the Hindu genocide. How many? 412 million massacred, 3.7 million forced, blackmailed, converted, 95 million Hindus tortured under political crimes, and 9 million books burned in Nalanda University. And you can see this repetitive pattern continuously happening even in so-called modern-day universities, or even this, especially this anti-Hindu media deep state elements who continuously attacks us, instigating mob violence, instigating hate speech, and continuously basically instigating modern day genocide to happen again. And the first ever genocide that actually even happened, the earliest, most documented genocide, was when the Islamic invasion happened, when the Hindu civilization was invaded and almost enslaved 500,000 Hindus. Whether if it's the Hindus genocide happening in Bangladesh since 1971, or even the most recent Hindu genocide, which is what's happening right now to Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. In all levels, Hindus are continuously getting attacked again and again and again, just because of one thing: us standing up. Us standing up against the colonization mindset. Yes, Nithyananda. So now we're going to actually learn more about what is Kailasa and how the anti-Hindu media elements are continuously distorting the very rights our nation actually has. So if you look over here, this characterization of how we are a fictitious country, or maybe where is Kailasa, this is our response to all of the anti-Hindu um, deep state elements, where they're continuously instigating the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism or the nation or any of the humanitarian work that we are trying to do with the indigenous community. See, we would like to teach you all this one thing. Kailasa is a sovereign nation as per the international law. Kailasa is a sovereign nation as per the international law. And this international law allows us for the nature of statehood and our rights to self-determination. And the United Nations itself explicitly states that it is neither a state nor a government, and therefore does not possess any authority to recognize either a state or a government. Recognition is just a political act, not a legal prerequisite for statehood. So let's all dive in deeper to understand about the juridical statehood of the United States of Kailasa. If you can see over here, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism of Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Parameshwaram is the reviver of Kailasa, the ancient enlightened Sanatana Hindu civilizational nation. Under the United Nations conventions, the United Nations upholds Kailasa's privileges while recognizing Kailasa inherited unbroken historical sovereign status as per the preamble of the UN Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relation and UN Vienna Convention on the Consular Relation, which is the first point, declare that historical rules of customary international law continues to govern relationship, confirms that all nations from ancient times have recognized sovereign diplomatic rights irrespective of differing constitutional and social systems. And third, requires that a state shall not discriminate as between states, including a historical form of statehood, which is Article 47.1. And you can see over here, Kailasa is a sovereign subject of international law, possessing distinctive attributes derived from the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Parameshivam, the inheritance of the unbroken succession and the revival of three ancient Sanatana Hindu sovereign states. The first goes as Suryavamsa Suragi Samraja Sarvanya Pita. The second, Suvarnapita Swargapura Samraja Sarvanya Pita. And the third, Shamala Pita Sarvanya Pita. So these are as per the international law. And the next is the Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of a State. Kailasa fulfills all four criteria: permanent population, a defined territory, a government, and a capacity to enter into relations with other states. And you can see over here, so we can actually look at the video right now. We're going to show you a video to make you all understand what are these things in which the whole Montevideo Convention is established, how Kailasa itself is this. So let us all watch.
International law recognizes a state's legal personality by recognizing its identity. This perspective extends even during the period when the given state or country is annexed or occupied by a foreign power. Even in such cases, the legal personality of the state is considered to persist, enabling its subsequent re-establishment. Historical examples dating back to the 18th century include cases like Portugal and Genoa that were re-established after the Vienna Congress of 1815. Of Malta further exemplifies this principle, retaining international recognition as a sovereign entity despite the permanent loss of their territory upon Napoleon's invasion in June 1798. Despite such permanent loss of territory, the sovereignty and the international legal personality of the Sovereign Order of Malta continue to persist. Much later in 1894, the order settled in Rome and acquired two properties, the Magistral Palace and the Magistral Villa that received extraterritorial status. Today, the order maintains diplomatic relations with 112 countries, issues its own diplomatic passports, currency stamps, and vehicle registration plates, and has been granted observer status.
So now all of us can understand, all of us can understand just by the video that was played about the whole Montevideo Convention and how Kailasa is actually coming from a succession of an ancient civilization system. So now a question is, who are you, the anti-Hindu deep state elements, to come and question the very rights of the Hindu's right to self-determination? Who are you to question in ancient civilization that has been existing for millennia? Just because you are interested in only one thing, instigating and ensuring that yes. So after understanding the whole international law and the way Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has built this whole thing so that all the displaced Hindus would actually come together, how the whole Hindu diaspora will reclaim their very Hindu sovereign rights. So, Mata
Absolutely,
Chapriya,
Ma. Actually, it's a very important thing that all of us need. We as Hindus first need to reclaim our Hindu identity. We as Hindus need to realize where our ancestors, how they have sacrificed. You all know it's so unfortunate that we call Hinduism as Hindu mythology. No, that's a very derogatory, abusive terminology. Be very clear. This is a very abusive terminology to gaslight Hindus about Hinduism. This is the way the Hindus get gaslighted about Hinduism, and this is what these anti-Hindu mafia gangs are using to gaslight us continuously. So we lose confidence. So even you stop having confidence on your own identity as a Hindu. Understand? Sanatana Hindu Dharma is as old as time itself. The way Sanatana Hindu Dharma is. Actually, the most interesting thing here, Dvaita Jitama, is actually it's unfortunate. I don't know whether to call it interesting or unfortunate because it is extremely unfortunate when we as Hindus don't even realize how Hinduism is one of the main civilization which has evidence of existing timelessly, where we have clear evidence of how we are as old as time itself. We have every evidence possible to prove this fact. Yet somehow we Hindus seem to ignore all of these and only are ready to get gaslighted by those colonizers who call us as mythology. And when we Hindus shamelessly start calling ourselves as Hindu mythology, just take a moment, see this. Here I'm showing you a few pieces of evidence. You can see 17,000 BCE. This is the earliest evidence of a Hindu civilization found in Rig Veda. And right next to that, you're seeing 15,000 BCE's excavation site. This is Iredi in Tamil Nadu. This is in the outskirts of Madurai. This signifies the earliest evidence of human beings. Now, I want you all to take a minute. Ask AI, or you can Google Ask AI, and just tell me when was the human anatomy first discovered? Especially the one with discovering about the human embryo's stages. When was it first discovered? Just take a minute, Google and tell me. You can ask your AI and post it here. Well, when you're learning, when AI tries to tell you, you can take a minute, just Google, just ask AI. The very first time that the history of embryology was in 1959. In the 19th century, around 1827, there was early observation of the human embryology. But the detailed way about how a fetus is was only started in 1959. This is what we all learn in our textbooks. But what if I tell you there is a 15,000-year-old temple? This is called as the Varamurtishwara temple, which has clear carving of the various stages of embryo. You all can see this picture. This is from 15,000 BCE. Carbon dating very clearly states that this is from around 15,000 BCE. The development of a human embryo is carved in the Varamurtishwara temple as described in the Garbhopanishad. This is the knowledge our ancestors had. Same way, around 15,000 BC, you all learn about the Harappa, Mohenjo-daro civilization. Definitely, if you have studied history, you would have come across this for sure. But were you ever thought that there was an excavation of the Pashupatinath seal, not just showing the significance for civilization, but showing the significance of Hindu civilization that existed? No, no one is going to tell you all these because this is truth, and the truth is going to be contradicting with the fascist supremacy theories that these colonialists spread, where the racist ideologies try to show and play down what we as Hindus are. Just go and refer to Tolkappiyam. It has a clear reference to 49 cities that were submerged into the sea on Kumari Kandam, which is a massive lost landmass in the Indian Ocean. We are now finding the submerged evidences of it. And these predate to 14,000 BCE. All these evidences, and now they call this as Pangaea. But this Pangaea, which is called as Kumari Kandam in our scriptures, you didn't learn about this in your history class. This is how we have been denied of our identity. We have been denied of our identity and we are losing the very confidence we have on ourselves as Hindus. Now it is time that we reclaim our conscious sovereignty.
Yes. And just like that, each and every single one of us can actually stand up and at least educate and open our eyes into all these misinterpreted, misrepresented attacks that is happening on the Hindus itself. It's time for all the Hindus, everyone, to wake up and understand the genocide is still continuing on. And unless we unite, unless we stand and understand all of these, and understand the way we can unite so we can understand our history, ensuring that it does not get erased again. All of you can actually share. You can also come and experience authentic Hinduism with Kailasa, with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. And you'll just see how beautifully each and every single thing that the colonizers did to destroy is actually being revived powerfully in our ancient enlightened civilizational nation, Kailasa. So I thank all of you for taking your time and joining us, listening with us. We'll end the session with the Purna Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Bhagavat Shri Nithyananda Paramashiva Paduka Paramastu Om Nithyanandam.